Hello again, you wonderful YouTubers. This is Edward coming to you from top of the tower this evening, looking at a beautiful sunset live. Absolutely gorgeous day today. A wonderful Philippine sunset, just stunning. Absolutely stunning. This is Foreigner Escapes to the Philippines. Welcome again to the channel. Had a pretty long day today, battling the platform, having guests over. Foreigner from Denmark and his Filipino wife came over. We had a nice time around the pool and a tower tour and chatting about the world, just like we do on this channel all the time. Here's a pan of the jungle and the mountains there to the north. Very beautiful evening. You have a beautiful 360 degree view here with a very wonderful cool breeze. And if you have to pee, we're covered. But just a wonderful evening to relax in your retirement here in the Philippines. And that's a state of mind. You have to, I mean, we all care about our world we live in. And there's a lot of upsetting things, but every day you have to have your little bit of peace. Give yourself some peace, and whether you pray or whether you go into deep thought or whether you chant or whatever it is, meditate, whatever it is, keep your soul at peace as best you can. Sometimes it's tough, but that's why people go to YouTube. Why? Because they want to get great advice, console themselves with what other people are going through in their lives too. It's a great escape from your own personal life, and it's also it could be a great help from time to time, depending on what sites you're going to. But some sites are going to give you valuable knowledge into the future. Some sites are going to make you think harder about your own beliefs or where you're going or where you want to go. And I'm here to share with you about the Philippines best I can. Getting into dry season now too, so I have some chores to do in the next couple of days, and then we're going to be going on a gold prospecting adventure. Absolutely, because I've just been itching for years to see if this country really is loaded with gold. We're going to find out. Guaranteed. We'll probably bite the dust and not find anything, because that's what prospecting's all about. It's like when you least expect it, then you're going to find something. But if you're all excited to go, you can go for days and not find nothing. But we're going to see. Let's see here. What can I talk about this evening up here at the top of the tower chat? I can tell you my life, kind of like my earlier life story of what happened to me. Born in Maryland. My dad was in the Navy there, Naval Air Force Base, and my mom was from Florida, and they met, and my mom got pregnant, and I was born there in Maryland. And then when my dad got out of service, we moved back to his hometown in northern Minnesota, and that's where I grew up, in northern Minnesota, Grand Rapids area. And Went to public high school at Greenway High School in Coleraine, Minnesota. And we were the Raiders. The Raiders was our hockey team and football team. We had a really good hockey team. Hockey's big in the northern states, especially in America. So that was probably some of my funnest times. I tried to be in hockey, but when I was born disabled. My feet were club feet, they call the condition. It's when your toes turn all the way in, and the toes from both feet are touching each other in the center. So the whole ankle was completely twisted on both legs, right? So for the first, 3 to 4 years of my life, surgeries and casts and special shoes, and I don't remember much of it because I was so young, but my parents, were very concerned, and at the time and still to this day, I have staples, one stainless metal staple in each ankle, in each foot. So they're obviously, young couple. Their firstborn son was born disabled, but the surgeries eventually, and all the special shoes, and I had one special shoe, leather like boots with a metal bar in between them, to when I walked, I'd be like a duck back and forth, and that was tough for a while, obviously, because the other kids didn't want to play with me or whatever, right? But I don't remember much of that time. But by the age 5, I was pretty much normal, 5 or 6. So at that point, I could, be a normal kid, and I really stayed out of trouble most of my life. My dad and my mom divorced about that same time, around age 6 for me, 5 or 6. And then I had one younger brother. And then nothing really happened of consequence throughout all my school years. I would, after my parents divorced, I would go see my dad every other weekend. So 2 days every other week, we would go to see my father. And then, that was like that for quite a few years when I was a younger child. Then my dad remarried, and my stepmom had a child, which is my stepbrother. So us 3 boys would do a lot of things together, a lot of adventures in the woods and stuff around, because my dad lived out in the countryside near the Mississippi River. So we'd go swimming in the Mississippi River and fishing in the Mississippi River in the very, very northern part of that river. And it was a pretty good childhood. Other than the divorce, kids adapt so well to it. It's not the greatest conditions for teaching kids really what needs to be taught for a good, solid family of their own when they get older, because they're already, living with what they think is normal as divorce. So that's messed up kind of from the beginning, but we made the best of it, and we weren't traumatized over it or anything like that. Both parents, my mom and my dad, did the best that they could. So then, after my graduation from high school, then I went to college, and went to community college. Didn't do so good that first year. Didn't really know what job or what career I wanted to go into. And I knew I didn't want to go into service, because a lot of people go into military service after high school. So then I finally picked, a couple years later, that I wanted to go into law enforcement. So I went to another different community college and lived with my aunt. She was an airline stewardess for United Airlines, and she got a job with United as an airline stewardess when she was 18 years old, right out of high school. in Chicago, Illinois. And so anyways, I moved in with her, and she had a place right next to community college in Minneapolis, Bloomington, actually, Minnesota. So I got my associate's degree in law enforcement there, and then went on to police academy, where I spent about 5-6 months at the academy. Got my certificate there, took all the tests trying to get into state highway patrol, and trying to apply for different cities that were hiring police officers. And I was number 2 on the list at 2 different cities that I applied for in law enforcement. Number 2. So it's almost like someone didn't really want me to have a law enforcement job, upstairs. And so at that point, I became a little bit discouraged. So my one buddy was going to Alaska. So I said, okay, I'll go. So I sold my old junker pickup and a Honda three-wheeler that I had won at a Ducks Unlimited banquet. Sold everything, took my money, and we took off in his truck and went to Alaska. And I spent a year up there trying to get a job in the oil field, because that's the best money, the best pay. Couldn't get a job, took a security job, and also took a resident manager's job at an apartment complex for a couple years. And then finally I got a break and met somebody that could get me a job in the oil field. And so I never looked back. I was up there in the oil field for 35 years. And on that kind of a schedule, you work 2 weeks, then you have 2 weeks off. So you have half the year off every year. And and the company owns you for half your life too. So during that time, I married my high school sweetheart and had 2 children, a boy and a girl. And after 7 or 8 years, she was unhappy in the marriage and took another man and divorced me. And so then my 2 children had to go through a divorce situation too. And that was not fun. That was probably the worst time of my life. For probably 5 years after that, because then you're going to girlfriend, and it's not stable for the children, and it was a pretty bad time. Then I finally met someone else, and married her, my second wife, Tammy. And we were married quite a long time, had 2 children, a boy and a girl. And the boy was the youngest, and the boy was born, not born with, but after about a year, he developed, because of things he took as an infant, ended up turning autism into an autistic child. And so even to this day, he'll be 22 years old here next month. And he still lives with me and will always live with me until I die. And then, so we were married, my second wife, we were married 16 years. And then when she turned 50 years old, she developed cancer, a stomach tumor, and all in her lymph node systems, and died within 3 months, that fast. So then I had 2 children at home, one of them autistic in their young ages, around 6 and 8 years old. And that was a struggle. The company I was working for at the time, British Petroleum, paid me full wages to take off for 8 months to try to care for my family and go through the mourning. And they supported me very well. And then after that, I met an older gal. She was a
flight attendant for a different airline, Northwest, and she cared for my children while I went back to work. She was quite a bit older than me, but we were together for almost 2 years. Before then, I met my wife now, Lelibeth, and we met online on ChristianFilipina.com. And first, my brother had asked me, because he spent time here in the Philippines when he was in the Marine Corps, in the military, 20 years before that, and asked me if I wanted to come with. I said, yeah, I'm there. Let's go. So that's when because I was just really discouraged with what was going on in the U.S. as far as dating American women at that time. And so I met Lelibeth, and actually I had contracted pneumonia on the flight to go see her the very first time in the Philippines. And so when I arrived to see her, I had a bad case of pneumonia, and it continued to get worse for the next 3 days. Finally, I had to go to the hospital in Iligan City and get treated and get medication. And on the way, right after that, we were to meet her parents out here where we live now, this day. Actually, right over here. Oh, that sunset's still really, really beautiful. But right over here, there was a bamboo hut that we dismantled a couple years ago, but that's where I knelt my knee and asked her to marry me. And we'd only been together a couple months, and what was the kicker on that absolutely convinced me. I mean, everything in the world was against me going to the Philippines at that time, and not only did contracting the pneumonia, but my aunt didn't want me to go. She was so scared, she was threatening to call the FBI that if I was going to go there, because she thought it was so dangerous here, and it was a very trying time for me to go here and meet with Lelibeth. And when I did, after we went to the hospital and got medication for my pneumonia, we were taking a ferry here to this place. And on the way in the ferry, she told me about the car accident she had been in a few years back. And she told me when she was in that car accident, was in a coma, and was 50-50. She was going to either live or die. The doctors gave her a 50-50 chance. She has a huge seam down her stomach from the scar. They had to cut her open. She was at internal bleeding. They took all her intestines out, all her organs, cleaned everything out, repaired the bleeding, put everything back in, and sewed her back up, and gave her a 50-50 chance to survive that. And she told me the day that she was in the accident, and you know what? The day that happened, that her accident, that she went into a coma, was the exact day my second wife, Tammy, died of cancer. So, I mean, the exact day and year, within a couple hours, right, of each other. And I knew right there, I knew it. I knew that it was God's will that I meet her, and within 3 months we were married. Then since that time, we've been together now, it'll be 8 years next month. And we've had a child through IVF process, because I was clipped years before, and vasectomy, did not work, or a reconnection, reversal, right, didn't work. So the IVF process took almost 3 years, and Leonardo was born. And that's my story. I've been here ever since after I retired, and I used all my retirement to build this place and buy land around this area. And I'm prepared pretty well for the times of the future coming. Pretty well. No one's ever perfectly prepared, right? I mean, you always have things that you wish you had more of, or wish you would have did this different or whatever, but the main thing is that you're working toward the best possible situation for yourself and your family. And that's what happened to me. And that's part of most of my background story of why I'm here. And I'll do an interview with my Queen Lilibeth here in the next few days, and we'll get her take and her story, and she's pretty funny, her English and stuff, so that'll be a good video. So take care, YouTubers. Thank you for coming on the channel. Please subscribe and like if you like the channel. Appreciate it. So long.